สวัสดีค่ะ Welcome to City Decoding and Transformation. You're here with me, Guitar Saruda Chusi, as your host. It is my great pleasure because we have the honor to welcome a special interview here, all the way from Japan, joining us. She's actually with Professor Ushida Naomi. At the moment, she is a professor teaching at Saitama University in Japan and also a vice director of Urban Design Center Omiya. So let's hear out all the great information that we could exchange and develop into our countries of Thailand as well. So good morning, welcome from Bangkok. สวัสดีค่ะ Professor.
Hi, good morning.
All right, so let's start here because we have a lot to hear from you and we really want you to share all this great information with us. So let's start by, we heard about the Omiya and Kanazawa in 2030 projects that maybe you can give us an introduction and the overview of your professionals, of your professional roles in your terms with us. Maybe you can share with us?
Okay, first of all, Omiya is a big station, has a big station, which has a lot of Shinkansen line. I mean like high-speed bullet trains and also several local trains. So the Omiya is famous for this big station, and which is located outside of Tokyo area. It's like 30 minutes train ride from central Tokyo. So Omiya is the kind of area, it's suburban area, but it's also the transportation hub type of things. So actually I'm working at the Saitama University, and this Omiya station is located in Saitama city. The same, same city as my university is, you know. So this urban design center, Omiya, there that is like a semi-public type of body, helps community development and community planning, working with local government and local communities. And I'm vice director of the Urban Design Center. So the reason why Urban Design Center was established, that was in 2017. It's been like 5 years, and the reason why the center was established is that the Omiya station, around the Omiya station, there are a lot of developments, including redevelopments of the city offices and libraries and some streets, and also there will be a lot of redevelopment project around the stations. So maybe local government thought like, you know, maybe they needed to have, you know, like intermediate type of body, you know, to help communities and local governments, you know, to think about, you know, what the future should be like, you know. So that is the Urban Design Center that is why Urban Design Center has established. And I've been working with local government and local community since then. And so for thinking about the redevelopment project, I think actually it's going to take like more than 10 years or something, but we work as like a facilitator, or we set the discussion table with communities, and also we exchange some ideas or those kind of things, you know, to help people to think more about the future. So that is our role, and I was one of the facilitator for that. That was my role for that. So that is about Omiya, and also not only about the redevelopment project. Urban Design Center facilitated some project, initiated some project utilizing the street and inviting more new businesses or new small businesses to open their temporary shops on the street, you know, that is, you know, try to invigorate the area. And also I wanted to give them new opportunities to find new places, or we want to have more new people to come into the town. Otherwise, you know, the Omiya station is such a big station, and around the area, rent is quite high, quite expensive. So it's very difficult for, young people or new businesses to open the stores or the shops around that. But we are utilizing the street spaces and giving them the opportunities to open the temporary shops. And it's like a test or experimental activities, So I think we hope that helps those people to open the stores and the shops around the station area eventually, So that is the kind of project we are working on as Urban Design Center Omiya.
So as also a professor at the Saitama University and also you're the vice director of the Urban Design Center of Omiya, that plays an important role for you. Is was it challenging to join in the Omiya project?
Oh yeah, it is challenging, but since we have a great full-time staff there, so actually they are working quite hard, efficiently, or maybe I should say quite hard. And, they are connected, having a strong network with communities. And so they helped us to, they are very helpful, and they work so hard and to have the kind of project working with communities. So the key here is that we actually have full-time staff there at the center. So that is quite important.
So in the Omiya project here, I've heard that you've mentioned that you work together with the local government and the local community. Was there any problems or obstacles around before at the end of the project that you could share with us?
Actually, it's very big. Those projects we are having in the near future is quite big, So there are stakeholders, right? So
yes,
yeah, it's very difficult to have the common image or the share the common future image or those kind of things, But still, we need some discussion, So we just keep having discussion, to have to discuss common issues or for sharing their future visions, But there are a lot of differences by people, by person to person, or local government have the different views, and the local community have different views, and also there will be a developers, So the purpose for the project is quite different. It depends on the position, So it's very difficult to, facilitate or coordinate between them. But I think it's common issues everywhere, if you have a big project. So it's not me working hard. It's not only me working hard. It's the local government works hard, so to coordinate all of them. So, but there's quite an issue about coordinating all the different types of stakeholders.
Yes, because when it comes to a big project, and there needs to be a lot of communicating to make the same understanding to the local communities as well, and for the government to share that point of view and make the communities, the people understand in the same way that why we are having a transformation of or why we are having a urban development. So how did you do the communicating with the local people to make them understand the importance of this transformation?
Sometimes we created the models, the models is much easier to see the future image of the town, So the architecture model and some drawings, So, and actually this Urban Design Center has an office in the station area. So in the office, we display the models and the future visions, those kind of things. So maybe people can stop by to see, those pictures and models, So, and we can have, casual conversation over that, those kind of things helps to more understand,
right.
The plan.
So start from making drawings and doing models so that people can stop by and when they pass by from the station to see what's going to happen in the future when this area has been transformed and has been developed. So
Yes.
From time to time, from the beginning of the Omiya project here, along the way, was there any meeting or meetup with the local communities?
We had a lot.
A lot of meetings.
Yeah, right.
So from the meeting, maybe you can share with us how you communicate with them.
Yeah, actually, the meeting is initiated by the local government, not us. Sometimes we work as a facilitators, but sometimes, like I said, we use the models, architectural models, and and maybe you just talk about the future plan, just looking at the models, and then the models can be altered. If we want to change a little bit,
Yes.
Moving around, those kind of things. Yeah, we did that kind of things, right?
So from each of the meetings, sometimes the models has been altered to the best results. Okay, according to after each meeting, and there has been a communication through the local communities. Any other obstacles that you occur during that project, and how did you overcome it?
Maybe I shouldn't say obstacle, but what I think is that just the building the structure is not a goal. So the most important thing is the activities and the contents. So what kind of things you want to do, rather than you want to have this, what kind of structure you want to have, So contents and activities quite important. So that is the reason why we started the project on the street, to invite the more new businesses to have shops and some talk shows on the street, those kind of things. I think those kind of experience helps to have more vibrancy even after redevelopment is completed as a structure, as a structure, So the thing is that, there are lots of buildings and redevelopment projects around Japan everywhere, but the successful case is that, you have some certain type of activities even after you completed the building. So the content comes first, and then what kind of structure you want to have. That is the most important thing for us, but sometimes people just forget about the kind of things, just building comes first. And so that is the main issues we are facing, and we keep talking about that.
I totally agree with you that sometimes, we got mixed up, and we always talk about the construction first, but actually there's more than construction that comes after that. Of course, when the construction is finished, but then how to make it sustainable in the future. So it goes directly what you said. I agree with you, Professor, that contents, activities. So maybe you can share the contents and activities from the Omiya project.
Yeah, when I say Omiya project in this context, I'm talking about the street activities for that case, So we like I said, we invited the new businesses or new shops, and sometimes young ladies selling the accessories. They usually sell the accessory on the internet, but she opened the shop on the street, just for experimental type of things, and also invite the children to play together, on the street. The street usually just for cars or pedestrians, but we try to occupy some certain area of the street, and we just try to invite those people to sit down actually on the street and having some activities, and including shopping, having coffee, buying bread, or praying together, those kind of things, that actually changed their way of thinking, how you use the public spaces, Otherwise, street is just street, just for pedestrians or just for cars, But thing is that public space is quite important for having a vibrancy for the town, because especially streets, streets is connecting dots to dot, like point A to point B.
Yes.
So if you can have, some luxury type of building, just one luxury type of building having a lot of activities, but it's just a building, if in the case.
That's true.
The vibrant town, so creating the vibrancy in the town, so we need to expand the activities outside of the buildings, to connecting the spots to spots. So the street helps to have the kind of thing. So
I agree too that, it's not just if you see it as a street, it is a street, but if you make an outcome and make the best benefit of it, it could do a lot of advantages to the community as well. So from the activities of Omiya here, is it like, do they have activities every day or only on weekends?
Oh yeah, that depends on the project actually. Usually we have the kind of activities or we just set the structures for inviting people and occupying the street area, like for sometime 2 weeks or 10 days or 1 week, it depends on. But since we had the COVID from 2020,
yes.
After that, actually the Ministry of Transportation and Land and I cannot
It's
forget,
okay.
the name of ministry, but some ministry deregulate the things that allowed us to occupy the part of the streets to use the so that we can use the part of the street for having a table and chairs to have lunch or selling the stuff. So those kind of things that is for, it's been like more than a year. So it's kind of like everyday activities.
All right, so we were just mentioning about COVID-19 and how it struck in 2020 and it makes changes to the Omiya project. And what about now, post-COVID already? How's the situation for Omiya project right now?
Actually, we cannot say that it's post-COVID,
It's still yes.
It's there, unfortunately, but we still have the deregulation, just the thing was just extended the period. So we still have the kind of project in the shopping street and shopping street still have the, not still, but the shopping street continues to use the outside spaces, because thanks to the deregulation. And also, we tried to put the temporary movable type of green on the street so that you can have a social distance between people. So that is some type of thing after we had after the pandemic, or because
so
of
for the situation right now.
Yeah, right.
So maybe this is the last one for according to the Omiya project. What do you think is the key message or the key success for the Omiya project?
It's quite difficult because I cannot say, it's quite successful or not, how we can define the successfulness,
Yes. But sometimes it's hard to define.
Yeah, right. And it's still going on. So I cannot say, it's ended successfully or something like that, but it's still going on. But the most important thing for the project is that, like I said, we try to invite more new people to have more new contents. And the experimental type of thing is quite important. We call it social test. The street project, we call it the social test. It's kind of like a test, how we actually can use the public spaces. So it's just for experimental things, so just for a week or, sometime a month. But So after the test, we can work on the, the actual project, So what was going on and what was wrong and what was good, those kind of things. And we can learn from the test and we can give some input for the actual project or those small businesses who uses the street maybe can actually open the shops in the area or those kind of things. Maybe if that happens, we can call it very successful, But still working on that. So, but yeah, that we need to have the kind of, temporary experimental type of test things, test project, that helps you to have, new activities to the town.
Right. I believe it's like a role model as a setup for a role model so that you can see what from time to time since the beginning through the project right now, what's the advantages, disadvantages, or what was the strong point of doing each of the tests that you have trial in the OBIA project here so that you can use this model for the next project. Am I right?
Yeah, it's trial, like you said.
Okay. And I also heard, we mentioned at the beginning since the started that another project was also mentioned here is the Kanazawa 2030 project. Maybe you can share with us on that.
Maybe it's kind of project, but I'm also a member of the board for a non-profit organization in Kanazawa. Kanazawa is such a historic town, beautiful town. Used to be a castle town, like built like 300 years old, right, a bit ago, and it has a lot of historic structures, and it's very culturally rich type of city. But in 2015, there was a new Shinkansen line that connects from Tokyo to Kanazawa directly, like 2.5 hours by 2.5 hours train ride. And that kind of new Shinkansen causes tourism boom after that. So that we saw a huge influx of tourists coming to the city. And we saw a lot of construction of hotels there around 2015. So we've been working on that, the community planning and the cultural, how we can foster the culture in the city, those kind of things, even before the Shinkansen. But we are, just wondering, what's going to happen after Shinkansen. So we had a long discussion, what's the real value or what's the actual attractiveness of the Kanazawa. We have to, sort out the things and maybe we can have strategize that kind of thing. So we had a long discussion with the member of non-profit organizations. And I was a facilitator, and I and a member of non-profit organization organized the strategy, what the future should be like for Kanazawa. So there was 20 type of strategies in it. It's just not a public plan, but it's recommendation and suggestion from the non-profit organization. So also the non-profit organization at that time was like 10 years anniversary. So the Kanazawa 2030 is worked as a action plan for the non-profit organization as well.
So the project is still going on at the moment right now. Okay. So a lot of information and meetings and talking. Does it also include the communities as well in the plan?
Yeah, actually, non-profit organization is supported by community. So
yes, because we also emphasize that community is like the main or the heart of transformation or urban development in each place. I think it goes the same to everywhere. Do you agree that?
Yeah, I agree with that. But Actually, what's the community means, it's very difficult to define the community. There's a local community, like we call it like neighborhood association, and this nonprofit organization is also a part of community, so by saying, involving community, what does it mean, so it depends on the project, right?
Right, yes. So it depends on each of the project. Who are you referring as community? Yes.
Right. So,
Right, so
for example, yeah.
Yes, I also agree with you that the term communities can be defined in many ways. It also depends on each of the project as well.
Right. For example, this Kanazawa things, there's an art community in Kanazawa city, It's also a community, right?
Yes, also a community, yeah.
So if you say like, let's involve community, so what does it mean? You have to be careful about that.
Yes, true. So maybe we can refer it as the people, the local community that are affected by our transformation in that particular area.
Yeah, actually, yes, but not like Kyoto, but we doesn't want to see, Kanazawa became like, too touristy,
Yes.
But there's some area became like a little bit too touristy, so that affects a community a little bit. Not like Kyoto, but still we see some impact of the Shinkansen.
From the beginning of the project until now, it's still going on, still in the process. Any obstacles that you could share with us and how you overcome it?
Actually, it's just a suggestion and a recommendation from the nonprofit organization. So it's just a reference for those people who actually work on the real project. So it's not like having a development or something. It's our suggestions to the city. So maybe there isn't such obstacle, those kind of things. There is no obstacle or those kind of things, but we still keep talking about that, what's the real value of the city, so like we use the word authenticity, so we have to preserve the authenticity and attractiveness of Kanazawa, so we just still keep talking.
I like the way you say that, you don't really want to call it obstacles, but you see it as suggestions that are coming, that everyone wants to make it the best for Kanazawa. It's like, it sounds more optimistic. Yes, better than we call it obstacles.
Right, it's kind of like common good, so.
Yes. All right. So that was the two main projects that you have shared and mentioned with us. So from the projects, maybe both that you can refer back to the Omiya or Kanazawa here. What do you think what could make it more sustained? How do you make it sustainable in the future? I think a lot of places in the world that start transforming or developing, that's not the difficult part, but the difficult part is how can you sustain that in the future?
You mean environmentally sustainable or socially sustainable?
It could also cover sustainables for the environment, sustainable for the area itself, the community, the people.
So I'm mainly talking about the social sustainability, and actually we started a school last year. The school is more like practical school that teaches their peoples to how to use public spaces or how to have the project like we did. So it's part of the social sustainability. That means we can foster the leaders, community leaders, So these community leaders who learn from us or who got the input from us can be a leader in another projects, So there could be a sustainability, So we are not the only one who work on the social issues, but we need networks, so having a more diverse type of people joining in the area, diversity creates sustainability. So that is the part of the creating sustainability there in Omiya area.
True. I agree, that start from educating people. Once you educate, and then you start having the same understanding, and now you have network, and those people can also do the spreading and giving further education to other peoples as well. So you're also creating and expanding your network of the understanding.
Yeah, it's kind of like ripple effect, right?
Oh, yes.
Right.
True. And do you also have these kinds of educating or courses like this in the university as well?
In university, I'm teaching city planning to students, so it's a little bit different.
Oh, okay. Okay. Does like students from university has opportunity to go out and maybe experience?
Sure. Yes.
Okay. All right. So from that, the sustainability that we have made you use by educating people, the leaders of the communities. I was just wondering that, maybe Thailand can also do the same thing as well. So have you been to Thailand before?
Yeah, just one time, but yes.
Where did you visit?
2 times, sorry, 2 times.
So where in Thailand that you visit us here? Which province do you remember?
Bangkok.
In Bangkok?
The other one is very touristy area.
Tourist area, is it in the northern part or southern part?
Southern part.
Is it Phuket?
Oh yes, Phuket, yes.
Okay. It wasn't hard because when you mentioned tourist place, they're just, name that comes up in my head right now. So
right.
The reason why I asked you, have you visited Thailand before, is that maybe we could exchange your point of view or your opinion when you first came to Thailand. What impressed you about our development or the streets or the constructions here in Thailand, in Bangkok, for example, first?
Street is quite active. So there are a lot of activities on the street. That is great, But sometimes, I think those people doesn't have any permission to use the street, I guess. So
yes.
Yeah, if you want to have, the development project, those developers and local governments tends to, wants to have a clean environment, right?
Yes,
so
true.
That means, that means those people cannot sustain their businesses or, on the street. But including those activities, in some way, maybe easy permission or something, that could help cities to be more active, right? So
yes,
that's good thing you have, the street activities.
Yes, I was also thinking and thinking about your project, Omiya project, and comparing then in Bangkok that we also have something familiar, sort of almost the same but not the same. In Bangkok as well, that we have activities in some of the streets or pedestrians and sharing with the local shops as well, and having activities quite the same. That's why I was interested that if you visited Bangkok before, that how would you see the constructions or the streets or the activities that go around in Bangkok?
Yeah, so the activities you have on the street is quite impressive, and I was interested in that. But in Japan, we went through the lot of processes to do the similar type of things, especially you have to talk with local government and police and communities, so it takes such an effort to have the kind of project on the street. So maybe it's a little bit different, but the good thing you have is this very active streetscape and street activities. And so that was impressive. But I'm wondering, if the redevelopment happens, it's going to go away. So it's such a shame, right?
Yes.
So yeah, that thing happens also in New York. I read the book about that, and sometimes the local government tries to have, give them a license, but in exchange for the license, you have to have, some sanitarity, cleanness
Yes.
For the business. So that costs a lot, and sometimes the business just give up to get the permission or license, So maybe there's a balance between, safetyness and vibrancy. So maybe it should be very, it's the redevelopment, even redevelopment project happens in Bangkok. I hope that you will find some balance between those things and to make those local businesses to be sustainable on the street.
Yes.
That is very, charming and very impressive.
I know, like the shops on the streets, it's like signature when people search for like street markets or street nightlife in Bangkok. It is really charming, as you mentioned here, but still we need to find the balance between all that, between the street, the pedestrians, the shops, and the rentals, at the same time. Still working on and developing that in Bangkok as well.
Yeah, right. But because of the pandemic, this kind of using street, this kind of utilizing street kind of project is, become so universal. It happens everywhere in United States, in Japan. So, so maybe you can learn from those, other countries to utilize public spaces, having some balance between cleanness, safetyness, and vibrancy. So.
Yes, I totally agree with that as well. So, and it also concerns about the COVID situation right now, that sometimes it does, we really have to admit that it does affect the works or the delay of each of the project as well. So maybe we're going to take more time than we thought we should at the beginning. Yes. So maybe at the end of our conversation today, just to wrap up a great conversation and great information that you have shared with us today, maybe at the end of this conversation, you can emphasize people that are watching that, about transforming urban development, what's the important for that, for people to acknowledge about this, because sometimes there are problems when you want to transform or develop urban spaces or area. It could be an issue or problem because of the misunderstanding of the important. Maybe you can emphasize that to the local peoples or students who are listening to our program.
So you mean importance of the development projects?
Yes, how it is important to have your area or you're having it transformed.
Actually, it depends on the countries. I mean, for Japan, we can rationalize to have the development project because we have earthquake, right? So to have, to prevent the disastrous outcomes from the earthquakes, you need some buildings and developments, But it's kind of like rationalizing the type of reasons. It's kind of the reasons we have the kind of development. So it depends on why the countries, why you need to have the redevelopment project. You have to understand the background and the narrative and the story behind of the development. So I don't know much about the the narrative behind of the development project in Thailand, but in Japan, there's a huge motivation, like, since we have earthquake, we need more reinforced concrete building, those kind of things. Still, even that, we need to, create the more comfortable spaces for pedestrians, including the street activities. You have to talk about it. Development can exist, independently, like, isolated island. So they have to connect with the surroundings, especially on the street level. We can have more, connections or interaction, between new buildings and the street level activities. So that is quite important. And if you are a planner or the local government officers, we should be more aware of the things, Sometimes you just don't talk about the kind of things, but it's very important.
Yes. So maybe just one last. So does that mean that the government plays an important role?
Yes.
In Japan?
Differently, yes. But like I said, there are several stakeholders in the community, members, property owners, local governments, and developers, and shopping street associations, But local government is quite important, yes, to have more citizen participation for that kind of project. But I'm not sure, because redevelopment project in Japan is more like a semi-public type of project. There is a grant from the government, because the redevelopment project is to build their more stronger, earthquake resistance type of the town, so government gives some money for that, But if it's totally private, it's very difficult for the local governments to step into the conversation. So I'm not sure what kind of project you have, so in Bangkok and in these big cities. So maybe it depends on.
Yes, it does depend on each of the project as well. But today we're more than happy to have a great talk with you, Naomi, and it's been a pleasure of mine as well. And we share a lot. And there, I have to say that we Thai people here are a big fan of Japan as well. Especially myself, to be honest, I'd love to visit Japan as soon, as possible if we can go. Okay, thank you very much for your time today with us and all the great information that you have been sharing. Well, look forward to see you in person very soon. Yes, thank you very much. ขอบคุณค่ะ
Thank you for having me.
So I hope that everyone gained a lot of great information today that we have shared with Naomi, or professors all the way from Japan here, that she's been giving a lot of ideas and opinions to us. So ladies and gentlemen, until we see you next time, so this is City Decoding and Transformation with me, Saruda Chusi. Thank you for watching. ขอบคุณค่ะ